Before you start listening to this episode, we'd like to make a little disclaimer that some of the material in this episode will be triggering for some people. So please listen with care.
This is Apige,
a podcast about our lives as two brown queer women.
Join us as we document our relationship, delving into the prejudices and stereotypes that surround our culture. My name is Udara.
And this is Shakya.
So we started off this journey by reaching out to people.
Yes, Tarushi.
So my name is Gosha.
For their experiences and stories, and for the people who shared their stories with us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts that you trusted us with all of this.
ආණ්ඩුවේ තීන්දුව ගත්තේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයේ ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨයෝ නෙවෙයි. ආණ්ඩුවේ තීන්දුව ගත්තේ ජනපති අගමැති නොවේයි. ආණ්ඩුවේ තීන්දුව ගත්තේ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතා සහ ඔහුගේ සමනල රැලයි කියන එක මම කියන්නට ඕනේ.
That was the president of Sri Lanka in 2018. In the clip you just heard, he's calling the former prime minister and his supportive ministers a group of butterflies. The word butterfly is a derogatory term used to refer to queer individuals in Sri Lanka. Cheering for him are his supporters, the current prime minister, and many other leading ministers in the parliament today. Sometimes identifying homophobia is as easy as that. Someone shouting, "Hey, you faggot," or someone saying,
Gay people shouldn't have babies.
But that's not it.
Human Rights Watch released an article stating that Sri Lankan authorities have been carrying out forced physical examinations on LGBT people. And this has been going on since 2017. Now, to give a bit of context on Sri Lankan laws that prohibit such actions are sections 365 and 365A of the Sri Lankan Penal Code that prohibit carnal intercourse against the order of nature and gross indecency between persons. Commonly, these laws are used to incriminate same-sex relations, and a vaguely worded vagrancy law and penal code provision bans cheating by personation, which is used to target transgender and gender non-conforming people in Sri Lanka. Now, Sri Lanka on many occasions on the international stage have said that they do not use these laws or they do not practice these laws. Definitely not in a court of law are people persecuted. However, this still goes on. And back in 2016, when Human Rights Watch interviewed 61 people in the LGBT plus community, 16 of them had been subjected to physical examinations, abuse, and even rape by the police.
These are not just few individuals acting alone, but homophobic attitudes that each and every one of us hold do contribute to the justification of abuse such as this. Imagine the president using someone's sexuality as a political weapon. It might be a joke to him, but he's reinforcing those homophobic attitudes, thereby encouraging abuse as well. We can only speculate, but we don't know what it's like to live in Sri Lanka and experience homophobia.
But either way, so I'm a 22-year-old studying psychology, undergrad. Right after I finished school, I started working.
This is Tarushi, one of our listeners who kindly agreed to share her experiences with us.
I am a bisexual. I call myself she or her.
Prefer queer, but I guess lesbian works as well.
That's me, Udara.
Hi, sir.
And she, her are my pronouns.
And I think I would identify myself as queer as well. Yeah, and I, she, her.
So now you're in university. So
Yes.
how is the experience in terms of your sexuality and homophobia different at university?
So actually, I think I first started coming out when I was in my university, because the rest of the students are like they were much more mature than me. I think I was the only youngest one in the class, and I think since they were studying psychology, and the fact that they were mature than me, there were no homophobic scene that I came across in my university. They were very understanding and they were very supportive. And
That's so
actually,
sweet.
I met more people from my community. I was
Mm-hmm.
very happy to see. Actually, I met my first bi girl when I was 20. It took so long, but I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, I'm not alone anymore. I mean, you think that you're all alone in this place that you know that if you come out, that everybody's gonna hate you, and you find someone just like you. It
Yeah,
was so relieved.
it's so
And then
special.
after that, it was very special. I'm like, I was so happy. It was undescribable at that day. And after that, I slowly started coming out to my classmates. They didn't even care. Like, they were like, they didn't care in the sense, they didn't care to a point that, oh, really? You're part of the community? No, nothing like that. They were like, oh, really cool. And actually, there were a couple of other girls. They were like, oh, me too. Welcome. I'm like, wow, okay. So all the response were very positive. So I was like, actually, like, I made a mistake there by thinking, oh my God, like, I wonder why, like, how come others facing difficulties as much as they say. I was very open about it. Like, I would talk about it. But
Yeah,
then, but of course, at work, I have been working for some time, as I mentioned. But
yeah.
I never, at work, of course, I never, like, I didn't have people around my age, or most of them were like older than my parents as well.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
I never got a chance to
Yeah.
talk about anything personal of me, and right, likewise. But now the place that I'm currently working, there's most of my colleagues are around my age,
Okay.
and the ones who are older is about like in their 30s. There's not like a huge age gap. All my colleagues, either they are bachelor holders or undergrads, or they're doing their masters. All right. So they're fully qualified, well educated ones. All right. But unfortunately, this is the place I see homophobia.
Wow.
So,
What does it look like?
okay. So now I said there are some of colleagues that who are about my age, like 20s. So they're fully accepting. They know, like, I have come out to them, and they know it, and they're totally cool with it. But now, this is something actually I faced today. So we were having lunch. There were four, one, my best friend, my colleague, and another two colleagues. And we came across this conversation about gay people. And this girl, she suddenly comes up and she's like, actually, being gay, being lesbian, it's it's a mental issue, right in front of me. All right. Of course, she doesn't know that I'm part of the community. But it was good that she didn't know, because I got to know how she would look at me if she knew who I really am, right?
That's true.
She was like, it was so bad. Like, she was like, it's mental issue. It's something you could fix, after you go for like a couple of therapies. They should start in Sri Lanka. It's I was like, so you're referring that being gay is a sickness? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, she was like, it's not that it's sickness, but like, there's something wrong with, they're mentally something wrong. I mean, you can't say that being gay is coming from genes, right?
Yeah.
That's not how it happens. But so it's all in their mental, it's all in their heads. They need to be fixed. It was so heartbreaking to hear. Now
Yeah.
this girl is well educated, holds two bachelors,
Yeah.
working towards her masters. I mean, like, my colleague was like, you know how they are. You can't argue and win them. Just don't say anything. That was the worst part. That people think that you can't talk against homophobia and win. You know,
Yeah. Mm.
it's very bad in the sense, like, the more we keep our mouth shut, the more they come against us.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm.
honestly, because I mean, if a person can accept two people loving each other, how can, like, you don't have to put a gender into it. I mean,
That's true.
you don't understand that love is a feeling, right? So it has no gender.
Mm.
So whoever you love it's not a sin, or it's not a mental illness or something to be fixed. No,
Yeah.
it was
It's
really
funny
bad.
because in science we never get taught that. Well, I mean, I had a lecture, I do biology,
Okay.
and I had a lecture about same-sex relationships in animals. There's over
Okay.
1,000 species that either present same-sex characteristics, behaviors, orientations
Yes.
in the animal kingdom, and there's so much evidence as to why there is
Yes.
homosexuality in humans.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I don't think we get taught enough about it at all. Like, this is probably the
No.
only lecture that I'm going to get. Um,
Yes.
but also in Sri Lanka, they would never teach the science behind it ever.
Exactly. I mean, in Sri Lanka, you don't even get to study about. They don't even talk about normal sex, let
Yeah.
alone like same,
Yeah.
like same gender sex. So it's
Yeah.
gonna take a like a. That's what I'm saying. Like people need to. It's not about like you need to know about the subject to talk about it.
Yeah.
Either you should be part of it or you should know about it. It was very heartbreaking today, honestly. I was like, wow. I was like, honestly, that's why I said that I made a mistake in the beginning, thinking, oh, I'm getting like I'm in a good circle, so my friends are accepting me, so I'm good to go. But now the more I come out, the more I get like, you know, the hatred,
Yeah.
and another colleague of mine, she sits right next to me, and like somehow like she comes to the point where she can like talk shit about gay people. She'd be like, she would start, my God, what's wrong with being like, what's wrong with people, like why do you have to be like gay, that is being like sick, can you even imagine, like how does that work? It was sickening to listen.
For sure.
While I'm like, I mean, I've always think like, what would you do? Because she's very fond of me, It's like, you know who I am, just that you don't know what my preferences are,
Yeah.
what my sexuality is. But you are doing fine with me, right? But
Yeah.
I know the moment she finds out who
Mm.
I really am, I'm not surprised even she asked for a transfer or something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
That's the worst
It's
part
it
because
is the worst part of coming out to people.
uh,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because you
It's
lose
like
everything that you've built with them, which is so sad.
you haven't even shown your faces. You are like, until I see you now, I had absolutely no idea who you are, how do you look, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Still, there were
Yeah.
people who were ready to judge you
Oh
even
yeah.
without seeing you,
Yeah, definitely.
right? So, I mean, it's like this, homophobia is something that you will face wherever you go. That's my
Mm.
understanding from what I hear from my friends around the world.
Oh yeah.
But it's just that like in Sri Lanka, we are more with the culture. There are like more than like our people will be talk uh, about how it's against the culture more than how it's. I mean, it's not against anything, but
Yeah.
like in a Western country, they will talk about it's against the nature, it's against the science, so
Yeah.
on and on, right?
Yeah.
But
Mm.
our
It's
people, like
not.
what I have understand,
Mm.
they wouldn't talk about how it's not against anything, but they'd be like, "Oh no, it's against culture. You're not supposed to be like
Yeah.
that."
Yeah.
Okay, let's stop here for a second and think about something. What is culture? Like, what is culture? Okay, to answer this, I need some tea, I need some books, and I'm gonna sit down and tell you a story. There are material aspects of culture, like buildings, food, and clothes, and then there are subjective aspects of culture, like norms, values, and attitudes. Some of these are embodied, like wearing a sari to work because you want to look decent and respectable. I'm saying this in quotation marks. Over the course of our existence as a nation, we have experienced the flow of culture from other civilizations, whether it's through colonialism or trading or simply just people moving about. And that's why you might find a lot of similarities between us and other cultures, because we have been influenced and often borrowed bits and pieces here and there to get to where we are today. So culture isn't something static. It has been changing and will change in the future. I've heard people say that Sinhala Buddhist culture is against homosexuality. That is simply not true. Prior to colonialism, I don't think there was any clear discontent with homosexuality. To be honest, it was even hardly discussed in Buddhist scriptures. And the concept of homosexuality probably didn't even exist. Then came the British in the early 19th century.
More priceless than panoplied elephants and gold mines is the far-famed Ceylon tea. Tropical estates bear forests of tea trees near Nurelia, where steeped to goodness in a showering sunlight, a Tamil girl...
And they criminalized homosexuality and many other aspects of our culture, including certain practices around marriage and relationships. For example, Ekage Kama was a polyandrous union in the Kandyan kingdom. Nowadays, polyandrous relationships are even simply out of the question. So who gets to decide what gets included and what gets excluded from this so-called culture? Well, that's something for you to think about. And we're going to go back to our conversation.
That's exactly what my grandma said when I interviewed her recently. That she accepts it fully. She thinks it's very natural. She said it's fate, even.
Yeah.
And she said even in Buddhism, it doesn't say anything against homosexuality. But it's the Buddhist culture in Sri Lanka that's against me. That's how she put it. And that was so interesting because I was like, Buddhism doesn't outrule it. Culture shouldn't determine it. But you still think it's against a culture.
Yes. It's I think the main reason for homophobia is that they are not aware. Just like I said before, people not aware what this is. They think, I mean, when a person say like, oh, I'm gay, they be like, oh, so you're like, oh, you're just, hooking up with the same gender person. I mean, that's it for them. That's it. I mean, they do not talk about the love, affections, the other feelings, that they don't think that a relationship that a straight couple would have will have the same relationship will have by the in a gay couple. It's that's the thing, because now like a very common misconception about bisexuality is like the first thing, like I'm getting this from a lot of my guy friends. They'll be like, oh, so you're up for threesomes. I'm like, no. That's not what bisexuality is.
And we discussed how someone's experiences may differ in terms of their socioeconomic status.
One might support a couple just because how their social status is and like where they are, like what kind of a reputation or an image they uphold. And at the same time, for a person who is in the same category but not in the same level, the reaction could be different. So that is one thing. So that's homophobia is like something you actually like experience in different levels in different ways. I had another colleague. Okay, so this is something everybody knows about me. Like I'm a huge fan of Rihanna. Like then we were having this conversation like at work, and like I out of nowhere I just said I was like, oh my god, I'm so if I ever get a chance to marry her, I would totally marry her. I mean, like I would totally. And this colleague, she's way older than me. Like she's older than my mom as well. She was like, oh no, that's a sin. That is so against the religion. You're a Catholic girl. You can't do like that. I'm like, excuse me. I really didn't want to argue or anything. Make a scene or anything, because I knew it's not worth it.
Do you ever see the older generations or Sri Lanka's stance on it ever changing?
Yes, older generation, of course. I think again that depends. Now you see, you take your grandmother. She's being much more understanding about how it is.
That's
but
true.
Even if I take like younger generation, still they could be like, oh no, that is wrong. That's not how it should be happen. So age does play a role in this topic. And at the same time, when it's come to the older generation, there's a lot more hatred.
Yeah.
Like they do not accept it. The younger generation, what I see is there is, but again, there is a category where you can talk to them, like make them understand this is how it is, this is what it is, and then they understand
Yeah.
and they get the hang of it,
Yeah.
like they actually be okay. I had a colleague, he was first, he's like, no, no. It was like he was totally against it. And when he got to know me, and I was scared to come out to him, but I actually came out to him because I felt like, no, you know what, like I'm gonna work with him. He should know me.
Yeah.
Because when it's come to me, I most of the time I'm being very obvious about who I am, because I feel like that maybe it does play a part that I'm not being out to my family. So I just want to be out in the public because I feel like that I can't be stuck in, like I can't be hiding in two places. I should be out at least one place, right? So when it's come, the moment I walk out of my door, I become the most obvious person. So therefore, like I had to tell him, and he didn't say anything or anything. But when he started getting to know me, like when he saw who I really am, and when he saw that whoever I love is not gonna change how I am or my character, my personality. When he realized what he was okay actually. I mean, he wouldn't say, yes, I support you, but he was much more better than how he was.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I actually thought, like, that's a start. I think in that way, there's category where you can talk to and get it done. And at the same time, there's another where you can, however much you explain it, you show it, you demonstrate it, no, they wouldn't get it.
That's very true.
What I feel like, it will take a long way for Sri Lankans to get to the point to accept us.
I just want to know, because we just started this podcast as a little fun project, like a creative project, when we were stuck in our houses because of the pandemic. But to me now it feels like it's sort of becoming something a bit more serious.
If you could make it more serious, because it's like these are the things that we should brought up right now. Because if you don't talk, if you don't speak up, there's nobody gonna talk behalf of us. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
So
Would you like to see us bringing more of the community together with this?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Because trust me, like I was craving for people who are in the same set of mindset as me, like because it was so draining sometimes. Like it's like this, like now there are some of my friends, they'll be like, they are fully accepting, but they don't actually get who I really am or what I really am. They're trying to be over supportive, and that is kind of like
Yeah.
it can be like sometimes they don't actually get like what it is. So
What it is, what we deal with. That is
exactly
true. Yeah.
because I mean you understand when I'm saying this, because you might have gone through the same situation. You might face hatred, and you do get it. You don't just listen to me and like, oh yeah, like I know what you're meaning, but it's not just that.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah, we need to create that.
more people. You need to have more. So if you could be a place where anybody can talk to, and like talk to freely, even over, like, even though you guys live like 7 seas across, you could get personal with online community. Like that you could do. So if you could be like that where people, I mean, it's very hard to earn trust. That I understand. It's very hard to earn trust. But then there's people like me where who would say literally anything.
We're so grateful for your
We are
time, though.
very grateful, and you are the first person that
We interviewed.
So that's
Oh, is that
The
so?
one before you was my grandma, so.
yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm so
Thank you
glad.
very
I'm
much.
so glad that I could. I think, I mean, I really don't know this conversation where it will take me,
Yeah.
because obviously you're going to post it, right? I hope that there will be a day that, because I really don't care about my relatives and all, honestly, because anyway I'm close to them, and really I really don't care what other people think, because I mean I know that it's not the same for other people, like for the other community members, but for me, of course, I mean, like, it hurts, might cry that moment, but I brush it off. All right.
Yeah.
But for me, my mom is the main center of my world. So I don't care anybody else in my family what would they say. But because we came across
that you can. I really hope that you will be able to one day, and that she will understand you.
Yeah.
I really hope.
Yeah.
Because that's all I wish for, because right now I have everything, I have a roof ahead myself, and I have food to eat, job to do, I'm doing my, like, I have a good life, but there's just this one empty spot where I need to fill it. Right.
And even if it takes a few years for her to understand, it'll be so much more rewarding at the end. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
Thanks. I'm so glad that I had this conversation with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for listening to Abigail, and thank you Tarushi for having this wonderful conversation with us. This is only the first part of the episode, and next time we'll see you guys with more exciting and heartwarming content. So please share our work and tell your loved ones about it. Just a reminder, what we have shared in this episode are strictly our thoughts and experiences, but we would like to hear your story. So if you have a story that you want to share, please reach out to us. With that in mind, have a great week, and we'll see you guys soon.